My name is Laura Marie Coleman. Thanks for joining me for this video on the understandings for multiplying a fraction by a whole number in grade 5 and thinking about how this is different from the way we teach that concept in grade 4. Think about these two problems. What's the same? What's different? You might be thinking that the product for both of these is the same because of the commutative property, which is true. But when we think about teaching this concept in grades 4 and 5, they feel very different. Our goal in this video will be to identify how students conceptualize multiplying a whole number times a fraction differently in grades 4 and 5. In grade 4, one example of a problem students might see is 4 times 1/3. They're thinking about and reading this expression, saying 4 copies or groups of 1/3. They might represent this in a repeated addition sentence. They also might represent it using a tape diagram. Both of these are showing how when I have 4 copies of 1/3, it adds up to 3/3, which makes 1 whole, and 1 more third for 1 and 1/3. In grade 5, students might see the expression read this way as 1/3 of 4. The difference in how students represent this is that they're thinking about taking 1/3 of 4 wholes. So in this example, I see 1/3 of each rectangle adds up for a total of 4/3, or 1 and 1/3. Another way that students might think of 1/3 of 4 in 5th grade is to think about a number line. If I create a number line from 0 to 4 and divide each whole into thirds, 1/3 of each whole number is going to add up to 4/3, or 1 and 1/3. That's showing us 1/3 of 4. Let's talk through a couple more examples with 8 times 3/4 and 3/4 times 8. If we think about this first on a number line, in 4th grade, I might represent fourths on a number line and represent 8 copies of 3/4. So you'll see here that each section indicated is 3/4. When I have 8 copies of 3/4, the total of all of those fractions, or those copies of 3/4, is 6. In 5th grade, I would think of it instead as 8 wholes represented on the number line and taking 3/4 of each whole, which adds up to 24/4, which I know because in 5th grade I learned that fractions represent division, is the same as 6. Now let's think about 8 represented in a tape diagram. Each one of these boxes represents 1 whole, and I have 8 wholes in my tape. If I divide the 8 as a whole into fourths, each fourth is made up of 2 parts, or 2 wholes. So when I think about those 8 wholes divided into fourths, and then identify 3/4 of 8, I'm going to see that 3/4 of 8 is equal to 6 of those wholes. So in summary, in grade 4, students interpret multiplication of a whole number and a fraction as multiple copies of that fraction that add up to the product. In grade 5, students add a new understanding. So they still practice that grade 4 context, but now they also talk about interpreting multiplication of a whole number and a fraction as finding the fraction of the whole number. Thanks for joining me for this video, and I hope you'll check out more of our content videos and our printable resources, templates, and other articles on our website, pimaedu.com. You can also reach out to schedule custom coaching or professional development for your school.